Or shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. All right, guys, welcome to another podcast episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation. I'm your host, Mike Morgan. Pumped today. I actually have my boss on the line here in the show, theoretically speaking. So first, I'd like to explain why I wear the shirt. This is not a proclamation. Unafraid is the name of a company owned by a man named Eddie Penny. Eddie is a former Navy SEAL, Team 6 guy. And as I sat down to watch a Sean Ryan podcast episode in the spring of 23, I had no idea that Eddie was about to change the entire trajectory of my life. At that time, I was retired for about a year. I'm a 30-year retired, medically retired police officer. And post-retirement, I had started struggling with feelings of anger, depression, rage, just general unhappiness. Really was not sure of the origination. Could not pinpoint it. I'm usually a pretty happy guy. Was not that. Told my wife about it, but again, I really couldn't figure it out. So then as I sat down to watch a podcast episode of Sean Ryan Show, Eddie Penny is a guest, and he's talking about the Extortion 17 incident in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan by insurgents, killed all 38 aboard. This included 17 SEALs, Jason Workman being one of the SEALs. That was Eddie's best friend. And Eddie was telling the story of escorting Jason's body back to his hometown in Utah and then to Arlington National Cemetery. As he told the story, he got upset, rightly so. I simultaneously began thinking about a call that I had buried 5 years before involving a 2-year-old found floating in a pool. Literally the one call in my 30-year career I started crying on, but I stopped myself because I call myself a fucking pussy, and we don't cry and we don't feel emotion. And put a stop to that would have been the best thing I could have done. But as I'm listening to Eddie tell the story and I'm thinking about this beautiful girl named Dana, I started crying like a baby. I had no idea what was going on. I actually said, what the fuck is happening to me as I'm crying? But kind of put two and two together rather quickly, realized I'd suffered some sort of PTSD in my career. Always mistakenly believed you had to see your brother or sister next to you get killed to do so. Mine was from being inside the most devastatingly intimate moments of other people's lives for 30 years. So I knew I needed help. First day with the new tongue, excuse me. Wasn't sure how I was going to go about it. Decided psychedelics was the modality that I wanted to pursue. I sat for an ayahuasca ceremony, 3 of them actually, March 1st of 2024. Literally changed my life during the course of that weekend. As the universe and I spoke, I know it sounds weird, but the universe was speaking to me loud and clear, as I'm doing to you right now. Told me that my life's pursuit was to go forth and help other first responders and vets heal theirs. I said, okay, I had no idea how I was going to implement it. But one thing I decided to do was start a podcast to do for others what Sean Ryan did for me. And in that, I bring on ordinary people who've done extraordinary things with their lives. We talk about the highest of highs, lowest of lows. And my hope is that you men and women out there who are still going through it can identify with me and my guests and see yourself in us. We'll raise your hand. You know, if get the help you need. Hopefully you get inspired. Hopefully you realize there's help out there, because I promise you there is. There's plenty of it, but no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. So let me introduce my next guest. He's Tyler Hoover. Tyler served in the U.S. Army as an infantry paratrooper with the 2/505 PIR 82nd Airborne Division. Can you tell I wasn't in the military? Deploying to Baghdad, Iraq in 2008. He obtained his bachelor's degree in Homeland Security / Terrrorism Studies and served as a street cop in Central Florida for 9 years. Tyler then started the Antihero Broadcast in 2022 and is the owner of Counterculture Inc. clothing line and the president of Counterculture Inc. media company. Tyler is married to his wife, Heather, and enjoys being active in his 2 sons' lives. Tyler, welcome to the show. For transparency's sake, I'm also a member of the Counterculture Broadcast group. So again, this is technically my boss man here. So by the end of this, I'm going to be asking him for a raise, although I don't get paid. So let's see if we could start. But brother, welcome to the show, man. It's fantastic to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. So how are things in the media conglomerate that you call counterculture?
Man, it's fun. We started it mainly because the reason why we started Counterculture was because we had a pretty successful podcast I did, and there was guys that really needed to market their companies, first responder and veteran-owned companies, that couldn't afford to. And I was noticing I was sending them to other people, and they're like, we can't afford that either. And I'm like, I was like, man, I know that there's smaller podcasts that could use a couple $100 a month. And so we started Counterculture to create an umbrella, essentially to be able to link first responder and veteran companies up with first responder veteran podcasts, smaller and smaller, right? So if you're a big company, you have a big marketing budget. If you're a small company, you don't have anything. Same thing with the podcast. If you have a big podcast, you have the availability to have all these big paying ones. But if you don't, you know, they don't want to advertise on the show. So it really helps. We just wanted to link those two things up together because I've done both, and I know, I know how it can be, especially with no marketing budget. You're scrapping around asking the wife, can we take $300 a month? You know, so.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to where I have a decent pension. Nothing rich, but you know, I'm not scraping to get by. But it's an investment, man. When you're doing this and that, I just wrote a book. That was an investment. The podcast, I have a company that does most of it for me. I have a mindset coach. I just hired a business coach because I want to start publicly speaking. So I want to get speeches going, proposals going. And listen, man, if you are smart, you hire people who know more than you in whatever you're doing. And there's plenty out there. I don't ever think I'm the smartest man in any room I go in. But when you hire the smartest person in a room, you're going to be achieving results.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the punk rock grassroots movement. When you got nothing, when you got no money, you just send it. But at some point, You're right. You need to start. Especially, it's not only designated professional. Like, hey, this person, this is what they do. Right? You like, let's say I did it. I was doing it before, but now I'm able to hire somebody that does it for a living. That's all they do. That's what they specialize in. You need to hire that person. And on top of that, you can't do everything forever. As you grow, you try to do, well, I do it. I like to control it. I've realized you got to release it, let mistakes happen, let it work itself out. Stressing over it is pointless.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because I started a police fire hockey team when I was in Atlanta, and it became pretty big. We became a 501(c), had about a $45,000 a year budget. And as things got bigger, just what you said, man, I couldn't do it all myself. I mean, I had the vision. I knew how I wanted things done. But, I had to get other people in the mix and, trust them to do what they were supposed to do without kind of diluting my brand or making us look bad or looking at us unprofessional. Like, professionalism is, like, straight down the line. I don't edit a lot of stuff. I mean, I send it. I'm genuine, but I also like to be professional in what I do. So, as you know, man, that's of utmost importance.
Yeah.
See what you do and do what you say. So, all right, brother, let's get everyone a little better familiarized with you. Tell us how you grew up, where you grew up, how was family life, how's little Tyler?
I mean, I lived upper class, middle class or upper middle class, like you said, in suburbia in Southwest Virginia. My dad is a retired cop now, but he was a cop my whole life. Ever since I came out of the womb, he's been a cop. And went off. He retired right after I joined the Army, but I mean, really calm, quiet childhood. I never got in any trouble, never did anything. But I wanted to be a cop.
And how was he about that? Was he cool with that or no?
He hadn't gotten cynical yet about the job, so he kept quiet about it.
Okay.
I don't think I learned later he never wanted me to, but I think he was smart enough to know when you tell a kid, no, you shouldn't do that, they're gonna go, why are you telling me I can't do that? What are you hiding? So, I mean, I played in bands and stuff. I was a punk rocker. I quit sports around 10th grade, and but then I realized musicians don't make any money. I was like, so I wanted to be a cop. But when I was 19 years old, you couldn't be a cop in Virginia until you're 21.
Yeah.
So I had seen some footage on the news about some soldiers that just got annihilated at a fire base, American soldiers in Iraq. And I went and I joined the Army, left within 30 days, and I spent 4.5 years in the active duty, and then I got out and went to college.
Damn. And how was Dad about that? Was he disappointed, or he was proud of you? Or?
He was very proud. I remember I didn't get it because I had made my mind up. They were on a cruise. My parents were on their annual, I think they were on their anniversary cruise. And I went with a family friend. I was like, yo, take me to the recruiter, dude. I want to go. I tried joining the Marine Corps, but at the time I had a tattoo that came out of my PT's clothes, my shirt, so the Marine Corps wouldn't take me.
Really?
So the Army took me. And like I said, I left in 27 days, and
Damn.
never looked back. Knew exactly what I was getting into, but I didn't really realize the devastation that caused my family. One day their son was at home. The next day they're like, "Hey, I'll leave for the army and I'm going to war." I literally took a bonus to quick ship so they could send me to Iraq for Bush's surge. That was his
Really?
the way he was going to try to win Iraq was surge a bunch of troops out there.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember like when I left, like, my family was all crying and stuff. I'm like, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" Like I didn't get it, like I was. It's just like selfish, kind of like I was doing it for me.
In one respect, you're living
Yeah.
your life, but yeah, I can see your parents' perspective as well. His son's going to war.
Yeah.
And a spur of the moment decision in some respects.
And then I mean, it's crazy too. As soon as we got there, within like 2 weeks, we learned our battalion lost our first guy, and they send it out to all the families once they have all. It's just like the States; they get all the information first. They black out any way of us communicating with the outside world. So there's no phone calls, no emails, no computer, no. And once they have all the deceased info, and they can tell the family, then we get it all back. So. But yeah, they learned about somebody getting blown up like 2 weeks out of me being there, and so I can only imagine how that is as a parent. Now I have kids, and I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, I don't know how I would do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit different than that when you have the kids and you put yourself in your parents' shoes. But let me ask you, how was your relationship with Pops growing up? Was it good? Were you guys tight? And I ask that for a specific reason because I didn't realize that most of us enter these professions after traumatic childhoods for whatever reason. Never knew it, never saw it in my 30 years. Looking back now, and I look at my own, it was a lot of, I didn't even realize, man, a lot of trauma kind of suffered at the hands of my father. He was super hypercritical, just in my shit 24/7, never, I love yous, never proud of you, never anything was good enough. So, a lot of times we get into these professions, one, maybe to prove it to themselves, to prove, to them what we could do. Other times, if you get abused, maybe it's you're trying to stop that bully or, many different dynamics. But I always ask guys specifically how their relationship with dad was. Today's episode is brought to you by Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, a veteran-owned, family-run clinic led by a retired first responder. At Cutting Edge, they help men and women rebuild strength, focus, and vitality through advanced hormone therapy, peptides, and performance-based weight management. Whether you've served your country, your community, or your family, Cutting Edge helps you get your edge back safely, professionally, and with people who understand what service takes out of you. Cutting Edge offers individualized care with no monthly fees or contracts. Learn more at cuttingedgetestosteronetherapy.com. Cutting Edge Testosterone Therapy, built by those who serve for those who still do.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It wasn't. I mean, me and my dad have grown closer since my childhood, obviously, but it was, he chose. He'll admit he watches all my stuff. He'll admit, he chose the job over his family. That was one of the things. He wrote a book. He never released it, but it was therapy for him. Working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, on street crimes, on SWAT, I'm stopping the evil, of the world and like loving it. And he loved the job. He loved it. But, he was, he missed a lot. And so I've raised myself in a lot of ways. He was still there. My parents were still together. They never divorced, and he was there for a lot of my life. But there was some parts of my life that I think, I just kind of like learned to do myself. And so I was very, very, very independent growing up. And opposite my younger brother, he's a mama's boy. He's called my parents every day, and
Does he?
Yeah, he's a cop and he's a trooper in Wyoming.
Wyoming, wow.
Yeah. He used to be he used to be a deputy with me down here, and then he said, "I can't do this anymore." The liberal part of Florida, he's like, I want to fight crime." So. But yeah, I mean, me and my dad are closer now than we've ever been, and I don't want to say generational trauma or toxic, but there's things that I do differently that, I know that he raised me, he did a lot differently than his parents,
Sure.
And so I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing things that being there for my son and telling my son things that he might not want to hear, and interjecting myself into my son's life and his successes. What's going on at school? How are your friends? How is your life going? I'm fine. I don't accept. Everything's fine. Because that's my dad would have accepted everything's fine.
Yeah,
And
yeah, my
I
job.
don't.
Actually, no one asked.
I pry, and then I give my advice, and I spend a lot of time with I have 13-year-old son, and technically I have a 20-year-old son, but me and my wife, that's my wife's first biological son, and he came way later in our lives, but he's about to move out on his own. Then I have our 13-year-old son, who's into sports, man. He loves sports. So I try to go to every practice, every game. I try to coach where I can. And then we have our little boy, Logan. He's 7, and it's so crazy seeing kids, and they're just different human beings. They're polar opposites of each other, dude.
Yep.
Like, so you have to you kind of have to figure out how you're going to spend time with one and then spend time with the other one, because yeah.
Yeah. I have 2 stepsons, and they're diametrically opposed. So funny, man. But I look at me and my sister, my ex-sister, actually, and we, again, personalities are not even close to each other. So, just because you're a sibling does not mean that you guys are going to resemble each other in any way, shape, or form in many respects.
Yeah.
So, now you go in, you do, what, 4 years in the Army?
I did 4.5 active duty. At the time, it was a 4-year contract, but they were counting your training.
Okay.
So I had about 6 months of training that I had to do before I was going to my first unit. So 4.5 years. I got out, went to college, and when I was in college, I did 3.5 years in the National Guard. Yeah, 3.5 years National Guard. That was just for beer money, though. I didn't do any deployments or anything. It was 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year type thing.
Okay. The Weekend Warriors.
Yeah.
How was it with some of those guys, man? It had to be ridiculous with some of these buffs.
Crazy seeing it, but man, when you come out of active duty, especially out of a unit like I was in, the 82nd, dude, you get anything you want. There was people trying to snatch me up for special positions and stuff, all because, it's kind of like, I don't put anybody on pedestals, but the people, the unknown that you don't know and you kind of look up to, it'd be like, for instance, like a Navy SEAL. And you're talking with me, I just can't compare myself because I don't know. I know my life, and to me, it's my life, so it's not as cool as opposed to something I don't understand and I look up to. It was kind of like that.
Oh, of course. You're in wartime, and a lot of these guys want to be there, but they're looking up to you for what you've been through. So, hey, and, you have to like the respect. And,
it felt good.
You have knowledge to give those guys. You're in there for 4 years, and you were in a war zone, so. Much thanks, number one, and many kudos to you for what you went through. So, as you're coming out, are you going through anything in terms of maybe PTSD? Are you fighting any demons?
Yeah, man, it was. So when I was deployed, I almost died, but I tell this story. I never even got hurt. It's almost comical. Nothing happened to me. But long story short, we went on a mission, and we were gonna go right. We had to go around the city, and we were going to go right. We do left or right depending on what the hell we got going on. We went left. We just chose that way. I remember hearing the platoon, the lieutenant and the platoon sergeant talking. We ended up going left. Right. We went to our target all the way around the city, and we just said, "Fuck it, we're not going to go backwards when we're done. We're just going to continue the circle." So we came, and a couple hours later, when we were returning to base, there was an Iraqi policeman going like this, no, stop. And of course my, tobacco chewing sergeant gets out, what the fuck are you talking, and he's like, bomb. And they're all standing there. They had just found it. I guess what they would be, the Al-Qaeda in Iraq or whatever the fuck they were called at the time. They had put an EFP in the wall that was meant to hit any convoy leaving the base. Now, they had to have been in with the Iraqi police. There's no way they could have done this without having an inside job. Yeah. And it was meant for the first convoy turning right was going to hit. It was meant, the way it was turned up, because all the bomb geeks looked at it and stuff, it was meant for the lead truck gunner. It was, the first truck was going to sense it off the infrared, and it was aimed at taking out the gunner, the 50 guy. That was me. Damn. No other convoys left that day and went right. We were the only ones that left and that day, because we came back within 4 hours. No other convoys had came out. Yep. And that was meant for me. That I remember that fucked with me so much. I had prepared myself for muzzle to muzzle combat and shootouts, and you know, I had never prepared to just one day you're riding along and then you hear a boom and then you're torn apart by molten copper. I just never prepared for that, and I definitely never prepared for that could have been you. That's fucking crazy. And of course, the toxic nature is that's what it was like. It was like, damn, dude, that would have been you, dog. And it was a joke. And I remember I vowed to myself that I would never. I would almost like, it sounds corny, but I would take every day like it was my last day. Like I was like, if I make it home, dude, I'm living it up. If I make it home and I make it without fucking dying out here, I'm going to live every day. And I took that and it became just a shit show of a life, dude. Drinking like crazy, all my anxiety, you know, you talk about just anything, anxiety, the inability to integrate because I wasn't trying. You know, anybody that, it's like law enforcement, you have to give an attempt to integrate, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Back into, you can't go out to dinner with normal people and talk about, you know. And I didn't, and I lived this extreme lifestyle of drinking and, you know, mainly drinking. I love to drink. Drinking was for my ups, it was for my downs, it was for everything. Drank through college, and then I was, you know, college wasn't really that hard, to be honest with you. After the military, or after you do a real profession, you go.
Oh, yeah.
College isn't hard.
Is it weird, though? Because now you're in with these kids. They've never been through any real life experience. You've just been through a war. You're probably 4 years older than them.
Yeah.
So is it dynamic, like, drastically different for you?
It wasn't that bad in college because of the amount of veterans that were in the program because of the VA. It was bad in the police academy. That's
Really?
where I had seen my first dose. It was probably about 8 years after I had gotten out in 2016. No, I got out in 2012. Went to police academy in 2016. So 4 years later, I was probably 8 or 9 years separate from most of the kids in the academy with my age. And that's when I saw they didn't give a fuck that I was in the military, that I deployed. They were all snot-nosed little fucking shits that did not care about me at all. I was older. I felt like weird. I was like, man, why don't I don't get along with anybody here? But I remember we were in the academy and we were learning like a 4-hour block or whatever about veteran, how to handle like calls for service reference veterans, you know, like we've been to a million of them.
Yeah.
And I was watching a video and I was sweating and my heart was pounding and I had to leave. And it was like, it had IEDs in it and had all this stuff in it. And I had never processed anything up until that point because I was just living every day like it was my last day. So I never sat down and actually thought about, and I had to get up, I had to get out. No one knew who I was or cared, so no one was like, oh, he's having an episode. I was just able to say I had to go pee. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I was like, holy fuck. I remember going home that night and I was like, I think I have PTSD. Like, I've kept it down so long that when I voluntarily was watching it, I'm like, what's this? And I'm like, oh, it was wild. So, and then probably a couple years later, I realized I had to get my drinking down, dude. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Let me ask you this, Taylor, when you decide that you probably suffer from some sort of PTSD, you getting any help? Do you do anything at this point, or you just kind of realize it and you're like, nah, fuck it, man, just kind of push it away again, push it down?
Yeah, pushing it down with alcohol. You know.
Yep.
Lots of alcohol.
That's what most of us do, man. Substances, dull it or whatever, or just compartmentalize that shit and forget about it.
Yep. So.
And then, so what happens now? A couple of years later, the drink is just getting out of control, kind of affecting your life.
Yeah, out of control. I mean, dude, it's crazy the life you can live as a drunk. Like the things you can do, and you look back and you're like, I was functioning like that, dude. Like,
bro, I had an opioid addiction. I was banging out over 50 Tramadol a day, man. I had 8 seizures in fucking 3 years.
Holy shit.
I know what you're talking about, man. Trust me.
Yeah, dude.
I almost killed myself.
The hangovers or just anything, you're like, man, dude. And I remember when I quit drinking liquor, like 5 years ago or something like that. I never counted it or made it a thing because I was still And a lot of people are like, "You don't know the day you quit liquor?" I'm like, "No, because I just switched to beer and I was crushing 16 beer a night just to fucking get that same feeling." It took me years, man, to kind of come off that because I didn't want to be an addict, I guess. I wanted to be somebody that learned to not be an addict. I didn't want to just be like, I can't be an addict anymore. I wanted to learn. So, that was just it was a long process in my life. I mean, I'm still struggling now. Like if I have a beer or two like a normal person, there's that cloud that's like, yo, dude, let's get turned. Let's watch a favorite, action movie and just fucking talk shit online and get drunk. But nothing good comes from that, dude. Nothing good comes from that at all.
No.
The next day let's just look at basic functionality. The next day's shot. Nothing good comes from just drinking a bunch of alcohol. So, I'll be the first one to admit I struggle. But that probably means I'm an addict.
Yeah, which, as long as you have the awareness and you admit it, bro, that's like step number one. Step number two is raising your hand and getting help. And, I'm not telling you anything, but if it's affecting your life in some way, shape, or form, and you never dealt with that, those stressors or that PTSD, maybe it's time
I
at
ended
some
up
point.
doing that later.
Okay.
Yeah, about a year or two ago, I went to the VA and got help with the PTSD side of the house. Learned. I mean, but I learned a lot. I did my own research and I talked to people, and it's one of those things. If you're not looking for it, if you're not looking for comparable stories or people that have been through it, they're not going to volunteer. Like very rarely, your podcast is different. That's where you can actually have something put in your lap and go, oh my God. But if outside of people that are trying to make it in a thing where people can get to it, you have to ask people, and they'll tell you, like, damn, dude, I had no idea people were suffering with stuff like this. And you're like, yeah, I don't want to bother people with it, so I never bring it up.
Yeah. Bro, I didn't know. I didn't even know I was suffering from it. And then after I went to my first ayahuasca retreat, I did a Facebook Live that Tuesday night. And I'm like, you know what, man? There's got to be brothers and sisters of mine that are going through this shit. It cannot just be me. So I literally laid it out, told them what I've been going through, told them what I had just gone through that past weekend. I was crying. And I went back in the house, and I'm like, man, baby, I just cried on Facebook Live. It ended up being like 35 minutes. I'm like, I can't believe I just cried. First of all, I wouldn't have had the capacity to cry before that weekend. And secondly, had I done so, I would have been so embarrassed. I'm like, man, I'm fucking proud that I cried. And I got 4 calls the next day, 3 from good buddies that were going through it. One had a gun in his mouth in a not too distant past, who I never in a million years would have thought of would have had that. Sounds familiar? And then a female friend who was actually going through a bunch of stuff, civilian. We certainly don't have the cornerstone on trauma. But, bro, it's amazing when you let yourself become vulnerable, which is what Eddie Penny did for me. The guy literally changed my entire life. And this is why I do what I do, so other people could see guys like you kind of allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And they see that, holy shit, man, I'm not alone. Like, this guy went through the same exact stuff that I went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
we do. We try to, we're trying to build a community with our broadcast, kind of let people know. Like, people have messaged us and said, dude, I was about to do it, but you guys somehow made me laugh at the same time, made me feel like I wasn't the only one. And now, that, like, that's heavy. That's a heavy DM to get, dude. Like,
yeah.
Well, hold on. Like, are you good? Like, so it's been a wild ride, though. We love it.
Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. I got one 2 days ago, man. This dude just reached out, and he's like, I just want to thank you for doing what you do and say the stuff you say. He's like, I'm a retired fire service guy, and, everything you say I'm going through. And I'm like, brother, you need help? DM me whenever. I'll do anything I can. He's like, you don't know how much it means. And then it's pretty funny. It's like, a guy like you, I'm like, well, I could have a few followers on Instagram. Like, people crack me up with that shit. Like, I am no one. I'm just some dude telling my story, trying to help other people. It's weird. Like, you get a few followers, and maybe you can, you can identify with this, and people think you're like not a star, but that you won't communicate with them or get in touch with them. I'm like, I answer any and everyone, man. If you're needing help, hit me up, and I will do whatever I can.
Yeah, I love it because it's so ridiculous. When they kick it off with, you'll probably never see this. Like, dude, I'm the same dude as anybody else that lays on the fucking couch for 10 minutes and goes, like this with my phone. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. If I was Brad Pitt, I don't have time. I have people running my social medias, but
Yeah.
the average guy absolutely is going to respond. And I mean, it can get tough sometimes. I think that's what inspires people to be coaches, and because we've gone through that. We're like, that's why we started a Patreon. Is me and Mike were like, we're talking to people back and forth and giving advice and opinions, and we were like, I was starting to mix people up. You really feel bad about giving a generalized thing, and then they come back with something more specific, and you're like, man, if I accidentally leave this unread or unopened, this person's going to think I don't care.
Yeah.
So we kind
Serious shit, man.
Yeah, and so we started the Patreon to kind of like have that open dialogue where we could get to know these people. We're like, dude, and as the business buying comes to it a little bit for me is that Mike felt kind of weird doing it at first, and I was like, listen, dude, if someone's not willing to pay a cup of coffee a month to have unlimited access to whatever we have to say, then they probably don't care that much. I'm going to ask you 8 million questions, and as soon as I say, hey, can we bring this over to Patreon? Like, well, no, I'm not paying for it. Like, at that point, we're a tool, and we're not, so that's why we do the Patreon, and it helps us keep track of people because, so a DM can get lost, and if that's that person's reach for help or their cry for help, and you don't get that DM, like, it could be catastrophic on the back end, and you might not even know. You might not ever know. So
yeah, no, it's the truth. I was telling someone recently, like, listen, man, if I start to get crazy busy here, I do not want to ever admit, like, you're dealing with people's lives here. So I'll always have something in place, whether it's me. Not, maybe someone else will get to it first, but, forward it to me. Like, I never, ever want to miss that because just what you said, I've been to multiple ayahuasca retreats where vet, first responder only, multiple guys said, this was my last ditch effort, man. I was about to commit suicide had I left this place and not changed my life. So it could be the same with a DM that you and I are getting, man. It's amazing. Yeah. So I'll never take that for granted, that's for sure. So, all right, so you're going through now. You kind of realize you suffer from PTSD. This is very early in your PD career, right? Correct?
This is that self-realization was in the police academy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. And then, but continued to drink, managed to be a good cop and drink, man. And, the problem is that, usually cops get the drinking problem, but they start the career off healthy, right? That's the traditional. I was starting the career off with a drinking problem. So I remember no one knew. I had dated girls that were like, you drink a lot. I'm like, you go fuck yourself, but, no one knew the caliber of, I think my parents might have known, but they didn't really say anything to me. And, my friends didn't know how much I drank, or if they did, it was always fun. Like, we were hanging out, like, my college friends, they were, like you said, they're 5-6 years younger than me, 7 years. So it wasn't alarming to them, like if someone our age now is, man, Bob over here, every time we see him has got a fucking party cup. We might want to talk to Bob.
Exactly.
Bob
fucking up.
That kind of was it played a attributing factor to why I was like, man, I need to slow this shit down. Like, there's no way I'm gonna do a career when I'm drinking like this. So,
well, I always say, like Goggins says, we're all fucked up. Like, we are actors, man. We let people see what we want them to see of us, and if you're trying to hide that, unless they're with you 24/7 on the daily, basically living with you, you're gonna be able to hide it very well from most people. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So. All right. So, as you're proceeding through the career, how are things going? Are you enjoying being a police officer?
Yeah, at the time, I was in a smaller agency, a sheriff's office in the Daytona Beach area where I graduated college. There wasn't a lot of high crime there, and so I grew up watching LAPD movies, dude. I wanted to be fucking deployed to the hood every day. That was my dream.
Should have come to Atlanta, bro. You could have worked with me. You would have had some fun there.
I did 3 years at my first agency, and then hopped on over to the Orlando area, the sheriff's office, and that was wild, dude. That was when I was like waking up to the tones like freaking out, like you're missing a call, shooting out of bed. Because I mean, it was just I had never seen anything like that, dude. It was hot call after hot call, like, and that's normality for a lot of cops. But I came from a very slow paced place, that was not normal. So, I eventually got some experience in SWAT, which then I got on street crimes. SWAT was short lived because I'm me and I'm just not on brand for SWAT. I'll just put it that way.
How come?
What'd you say?
Too much time, or why is that?
Oh no, I had plenty of time. I was in it to win it with SWAT, but they had found my apparel line and they thought that was a little too what would you say, crazy. I remember they sat me down and they're like, if you shoot somebody in a house, which they're like, we have to think like you will do that. That's how we have to think.
Yeah.
When it happens, they're going to tear apart. You've got T-shirts that say this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, that's fair. So I took them down. And from then on, I was just like a liability in their eyes. And a lot of them didn't like the fact that I was a war veteran.
Really?
I was on a Tier 1 SWAT team, and they had only 2 dudes that were combat MOS guys with time overseas. 2 dudes.
That's crazy.
There are lots of 90s Marines in there that were before the global war on terrorism. Lots of guys that were in the military. But if I remember correctly, only 2 guys, and I know their names off the top of my head, that were infantry guys. One was in the Army, Rangers. The other one was a Marine. And that's it. So a lot of those guys were like, well, I was in the Air Force. Like, okay. And I never brag. I'm never a guy to put down military service because guess what? I might be like this much over you, but there was fucking 100,000 people that did way cooler shit than me. I would never put it's just some guys are insecure. And so that didn't help me at all. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I was like, we're all cops. I can read people. And I had heard through the grapevine when, I was booted from the team, that there was a lot. There was guys calling me to come back now that they had new structure and new management. A lot of the toxic dudes left that were running things. And so I was like, no, because when you're used to putting 70, 80 hours into something a week, and now you're back down to 40 hours a week on average, you got a lot of time. So I went on Amazon and I bought 2 mics, a Zoom 6 mixer, a couple cameras, and a couple cords, man, and started rocking and rolling. Yep.
Casey Kasem starting his career.
Yep, that's
and what year was this now? This is 22 or this is earlier than that?
I think it's this last December was 3 years. So it was December 2022 when I put out my first ever episode, which is so awful it's hidden behind a paywall and you got to pay $3 a month on YouTube to see it. But that's why I started December 2022, and it was because I got kicked off SWAT. I had nothing better to do, but that was my calling. I knew it was. I'd always wanted to do it. It's always radio and podcasts always intrigued me when I was in college, and I was like, well, I don't really have anything to talk about. So, and then I was like, this is what it was like. Just like joining the military and just like joining the police department, starting a podcast was like, there was a voice telling me, like, this is what you were meant to do. Like, go forth and conquer, spread the word. I wasn't the best or sharpest or coolest or capable warrior, but what I am good at is talking and shining light on people that have dedicated everything, shining light on people that lost their lives, shining light for people that are lost because of what they've done. That's my gift that I'm actually good at. So that's what I try to always keep in my head every day when I wake up and we go live, is remember those people. This is my gift to shine light on the people who actually, are out there still doing the job, whatever the job may be. First responder, veteran, blue collar dudes that are out there working 15 hours a day to come home to their families and they can put food on the table. Those are the people that we really love to be able to speak to.
Excellent. So as you're starting off, are you solo or you have a partner? initially?
Yeah. So I was solo for about 9 months. Was doing a podcast at the time. It's not like it is now. So 3 years later, anybody can have a podcast, and that's not even like a motivational.
Perfect example of that, bro.
Dude, anybody can do it, man.
Yep.
It's awesome. It's easy. It's really awesome. I love the fact. But when I started, there was no cops or military dudes that I knew I couldn't find a fucking person to give me any advice. I had to go on YouTube, top 5 things to remember when starting a podcast, top 5 not to do, don't do these things. And I just went through, I learned, and I was by myself for about 9 months. And then around episode 30, I was like, I need a co-host. That's what I need. Like that's the next step, because I didn't do anything remote at the time. I did nothing remote. All my podcasts were filmed with a person in studio. Now, I would do remote, but there were little extras to help me get to that 4,000 watch hours that everybody's like, come on, baby. You know, like when you're trying to get monetized, you're like, I need 4,000. So I would do extra remote things with people, but my main episodes every Monday were in-person episodes, and I was just geographically running out of people. So I hit up this dude that I had on. He was a Delta Force guy. His name was Brent Tucker. He had trained our SWAT team. He had been a guest on my show previously, and the numbers were really good. I was like, man, I think people like this special forces stuff. That much I did not know what I was tapping into. That was like poking the ground going, I heard there's oil somewhere around here. And then I was like,
yeah, you struck it.
Yeah. So he comes on as a permanent co-host, and we're off to the races. And we did that together for about 2 years. And then he kind of wanted to do different. He wanted to go the more special operations side of things. I wanted to keep it for the boys. That was the reason this show was. It was a common man show. It was nobody's better. And we were seeing the shift in vision, and we couldn't really agree on the vision anymore. It would be successful either way. And it was becoming too much. We always said if it felt like a job, why do it? So we split, and he went and started his own thing that's more special forces oriented, and we changed the name to the Broadcast to kind of pivot from anything in the past. Not that it's not our history, but it was a very new thing we went on. We went from a podcast that was pre-recorded, released every Monday, to we are official 5-day-a-week live broadcasts, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that has been a goal of mine since I started. I've always wanted to do that. So now I'm in that conundrum again, where I'm starting something and no one knows anything about broadcasting. Like, how do you get on the radio? And everyone's like, I have no fucking clue. Like, what's the best stuff to use for broadcasting? How do you build a broadcast? I know how to build a podcast. You just get on other podcasts, and you have big names come on your podcast. It's not really a hard formula. How do you build a broadcast? How do you get people to listen every day? How do you become a Howard Stern for first responders and veterans? There's just no blueprint. You got to, and so hopefully, I can, fucking do through all the trial and error. I can just deflect what doesn't work and then pass it on to anybody that hey, how did you do this? Because I have a feeling, broadcasting is going to be a big thing because people have a lot of downtime. If you can podcast one time a week and it's easy, you could podcast every day, especially when you're letting it flow. When you're not, when it's broadcasting is a lot more flowy, a lot less scripted, and it's a little bit more fun, and it's live. So, but I have a feeling that it's going to take over, because if you ask yourself, why can't you go live on Spotify or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, right? Why can't we do live? We can go live on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitter, or X is Twitter, but Facebook, Instagram. You can go live on anything. The audio platforms you can't go live on. Now, you can upload a file within 30 seconds and it's there, but you can't go live. So I started looking into that a lot. And what it's looking like is they don't want to be Ubered. They don't want what Uber did to the taxi industry overnight. This is way better. It's way cheaper. It's way more efficient, right? Destroyed the taxi industry overnight. I'm sure
Yeah.
taxis still survive in like big cities, but Uber just took over.
Oh yeah.
So I think that if they do that, regular radio is gone, and XM radio is in a real tight bind when you can now just stream live anything you want to listen to. But I know that's coming. I've talked to some people in the radio industry finally that I've gotten a hold of, and I know that that is coming, where you're going to be able to go live on Spotify and have your own radio station. You can have 10 people that listen or 10 million people that listen. It's just like, it'll be just like YouTube. You just got to build it on your own. But the problem is it's so gate kept that you're like, how do you do this? And it's like, well, you're not in the radio industry, so don't worry about that. Like, okay, I'll find my way.
But you got, so now you're doing, yeah, exactly. So you guys are doing a podcast live every day.
Broadcast.
And then a broadcast, excuse me. So now where is the podcast? Obviously it's shown on YouTube, but how are you going to, it's not currently on radio stations, correct?
No. And
Okay. So this is the plan.
Just for that, man, it's like no one knows how to do it. The best advice I've got so far is you got to know people in the industry. You got to know a disc jockey. You got to know a radio DJ on a, you know, like Atlanta. If you're like, one of the dudes I've known for 20 years is a radio station guy. That's how you do it. Hey, man, my buddy's got a thing. If you like it, here's his number. But outside of that, dude, it's all got to be connections and connection based.
Yeah. I mean, everything is, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about it, everything's relationships and networking. So how do you guys come up with your topics every day? Because you're talking for 10 hours a week.
Man, I realized 10 hours a week, you really got to, just like we talked about business ownership, you got to start delegating, right? So 10 hours a week's a lot. You got me and Mike are the main co-hosts. We got a contributor named Jimmy who's there every episode. And then, so we're like, hey, man, let's start doing what do radio shows do, right? They do segments, right? They do segments. Bring on a guy once a week for this, once a week for that. We got our sports guy that comes on Monday. We got the controversial Dominic Izzo that comes on Thursday. We just found a communist Marine who was a Marine and then turned communist. He's always in our DMs talking he's talking mad shit all the time in our DMs. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, do you want to come on the show? And he goes, I would have. Totally nice dude. Respectable, very nice, very appreciative of an opportunity to come on and talk. And I was like, I respect the game, dude. He got noticed because he was in the comments. Like, he got noticed.
Yeah.
If he replied, I would have never. So we talked about having him out as a permanent staple. Why not have the socialist Marine? We got tons of Marines that support us. That it's either going to drive them nuts or make them laugh, you know. But he literally has conflicting views on everything that we think. He doesn't. He's a communist. Like self-proclaimed.
Comrade.
We get nothing. We don't agree on literally anything except for the fact that we both served in the United States military. So I think that, and just finding things like that, and you know, having segments here and there every day. Like, hey, it's Wednesday. Like, this is what our Wednesdays are, and you know, I felt like right now at face value, that's how you fill up time. Is, you know, you get a sheet in front of you like this, and you go off the format. And then, you know, try not to be too strict with time, but, you know, if you got something at 12:20 that needs to be at 12:20, your team needs to know if it's 12:17 and you're ranting and raving, we got to wrap this up at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's awesome, brother. I love it. Now, how many podcasts do you have on the umbrella right now overall?
So we have like different like not levels, but different types. So we've got the ones that are way more independent, that are really, or we're just trying to help with networking. Is like podcasts like your podcast, or like Beyond the Barrel podcast, or Tone Alert podcast, or anything like that. Is very independent. We own nothing. We control nothing. The only thing we do with like Resilient War, for instance, like when you drop something through Spotify, you get your credit. But being part of a network means that we also get your numbers too, and we can compile them with Antihero, Turn Alert, Copville. We can Donut Shop Podcast. We compile them all, and then in theory, we're able to take those numbers and pitch it to sponsors. And we can, you know, That being
So my
said,
million viewers are helping you guys, is what you're saying.
yeah, like, no, I'm serious. Like, it's better. 10 podcast numbers is better than one. So,
Oh, yeah.
the only thing that so that's what we asked for, and in turn, we try to do the networking, the link ups, the live shows that we got to start doing again. They got a little pricey. We had to like figure out how we were going to do them that it was more cost effective. But we don't touch anything else. We touch nothing. We don't touch the YouTube. We do nothing. We have no creative anything. We're just there in case somebody needs advice, but those shows run themselves. And then there's the other type of show that we build in-house, like other than Honorable Podcast. We built that one from the ground up. Anybody that agrees to do it, I say is you get to keep your name and your logo. Like, I'm not Vince McMahon. That's yours. Your name and your logo go with you, right? That's yours. I will never try to stop that. I wouldn't ever try to rebrand something that wasn't what it was. And so we have like Unfiltered, Unfazed, a lot of counterculture like counterculture sports. They're shows that are built by us on the counterculture YouTube. Our Thursday night show where we have some, we brews and breakdowns and all that stuff. That's a counterculture show. We have full control of it, and we build it, and we have a lot of say in how it's built. And so there's two different types, but they both help in other ways.
Now, has this gotten bigger than you ever would have imagined?
Counterculture, yeah. Especially when, the good thing is everybody on it, they're not divas. We all cut from the same cloth. So it's not, and we have nobody that's cocky or egotistical. You do sometimes get people when they know that they're the draw, they become a little bit harder to work with. So that being said, but most of the time it's like I've been doing this for 3 years, dude. I've owned a t-shirt line for 5 years. I don't know business like I should or want to. So when people call and they're like upset about something, I'm like, just give me a minute. I'll figure it out, dude. Like, why can't I upload videos on Spotify? That was part of the deal. Like, let me
call Justin on that one.
Yeah, let me figure it out, dude. Like, a lot of people have to understand too. It's like if something like nobody's out to get them. I think a lot of people, they either come up without any shields and they get fucked over by other people, or they come up with their shields. And it's like, relax, dude. Like, no one's out here to get you, man.
Yeah.
We're not. So,
but we're all trying to figure this out together.
Yeah, but I mean, it's big. It's big enough. Counterculture. I just have to manage it better. Justin's been a godsend when it comes to anything technical.
Dude, I love Justin, man. I'm going to be doing on location podcast from Big Dog Ranch and Rescue over here.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, he mentioned that.
Yeah.
And
so he's going to be my podcast guy. Wiz Buckley, you be my co-host. First episode, we have Jeff Gum, former Navy SEAL, going to be on February 20th. We're recording. Danny Alvarez, Florida State Rep, going to be coming down, and then supposedly we're going to be getting guests, travel, and accommodations paid for. So I have some big dudes, heavy hitters.
Would this just be the next step in Resilient Warrior, or would this be another project?
No, it's going to be Resilient Warrior. Same thing. It'll be a once a month taping, and then who knows where it's. I have no idea where it's going to go.
So once a month you'll do someone cool, and then the ordinary cats like us will just fill in this place.
Hey, you guys are cool as hell too, man.
Hey, I go where I'm needed, and I know my job.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say they may have a few more 100,000 followers. But
we got to show a little bit more attention. No,
No, one of the stipulations was, they want us bringing in like heavy social media hitters, which I understand. You're putting that money, cool, no problem. But brother, I've been blessed, and like I can't believe what's been happening in my life. Like I did a few posts about it last week. Out of my biggest losses or mistakes in life, missteps in life, when I was sitting in rehab that first night, man, with that opioid addiction, and I'm a guy who's never done a drug in his life but smoked weed in high school, but these things dulled the pain of my first marriage, man. I just started taking more and more. So I'm in this rehab that first night. 3 roommates are sleeping. I'm crying to myself. I'm like, how the fuck did I get here, man? Try to live this honorable life, and I'm sitting in fucking rehab.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm like, no one is ever going to look at me the same again. That, like, broke me, man. And for anyone watching this, I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. Yeah, I was at a low point in my life, but, I got the help I needed, corrected it, and course correction, and everyone looks at me the same, if not better. And I see it was done for a reason. I was put through everything for a reason. Now I can talk to guys and girls with substance abuse issues, non-judgmental. I know exactly what you're going through, what you're thinking. I was talking to Taylor Cavanaugh's my Monte coach, and he had a fentanyl addiction. We were talking like, it's a fucking house of cards, man. It's just waiting to crumble. Yep. And we both knew it at the time. But you kind of bargain with yourself that it's not going to happen until it happens. And it's the most humiliating thing in the world. But I went through it for a reason, forgiving myself. It was tough talking about it publicly. Once I started, it became easier. It's in my book. It was weird. Once you write stuff down, brother, it just hits harder. I don't know why. You could talk about it, but once it's like written in ink and you're reading it, it's weird, man. Like, I've read my book several times since it's been published, and not in its entirety, just bits and pieces, man. I've cried probably 4 times already, man. Just, it comes back like it's happening again. It's so weird.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think we all have that moment where it's like you just, I mean, I know it's a longer it's not just one moment when you snap into it. So it's a long process. It could take years. It could take a couple months. But you're in it like when you're like, man, dude, every day is like war, but in a good way. And it's almost like this isn't fucking like fun land anymore. This is my life. I need to get control of it. Dude, little things like waking up in the morning. Like I always say, beat the enemy, the real enemy. Like when I found Christ in 2023, but I got close to him in 2025. And you wake up and you beat the real enemy first. You beat the devil himself. You beat him out of bed, right? And then you start tackling your day. I get a fucking massive workout in. You eat, you train. Every day, every decision you make, every business dealing you have, it's war. It's war, and you want to be on top of it. And I know that might be an aggressive mindset. It really is. And it might sound like that, but it really is war. And if you look at every day, every moment, everything you do, it's war. You have to prepare for war. You have to be fucking ready. You have to have your mind right, and you have to lead your family. You have to lead people that are looking up to you. You have to lead everybody. And if you're not prepared for war, then you're not going to be able to do that effectively.
Yeah. You're a man. I mean, you're expected to lead. You're expected to provide. Unfortunately, sometimes a lot of us don't, I don't know, I don't want to say get to do that we deserve, but it kind of gets overlooked. Just sometimes, our wives are doing a ton of stuff, with the kids, everything else, and, sometimes we overlook that, but it's just tough for us to ask for anything. I think all we want just is every now and then, like, just, thank you for blah, 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 blah.
Dude, yeah.
And, yeah, not crying about it.
Well, no, and, like, you're absolutely right. And, like, Red Foreman said it best in that 70s show. He was lecturing Eric You ever watched that show?
I have.
And he's like, Red's the old grumpy dad, and he's like, part of being a man is doing things you don't want to do for the rest of your life. Like,
exactly.
It's so true, and you do it for no recognition because everybody, you are what makes the world turn for the mortals here, for everybody, your family, the wives that go. I mean, like, but when me and you are talking, we're obviously not talking about the other half of it, which is our wives, and we couldn't do anything without them. I mean, any guy that doesn't realize that, I think a lot of guys get wrapped up in like, I'm the one, I'm the breadwinner, I'm the decision maker. Sure, that is true, but without the support structure from a loving wife, it would be nearly impossible. Mainly because you'd get lost in your own ego, and a wife also is very good at checking your ego for you.
Yeah,
you don't have
around you, man. They'll call you on that shit. Absolutely, man. You start getting full of yourself. He's right behind you, ready to pop that balloon, man.
We went live.
They do not play.
We went live last night, and I was freaking halftime show, and I was freaking out. I was like freaking out, man. I was unnecessarily pissed that I couldn't find a cord for the mic. I was doing it from my house, and fucking kids were running around everywhere. We just got it was a halftime show, and I was like, I'll broadcast from the living room to give it a little bit more authenticity, you know, like it's a halftime show. My family's here, and I couldn't find the cord, dude, and I was doing that thing where, like, the world was shutting down because I couldn't find a fucking cord. And my wife goes, you can calm the fuck down. The millions of people can wait that are going to be watching you. And I was like, oh, man, it was hard, but it was true.
Dick, but you're right.
Yeah, like, okay, it's not like ESPN's waiting on the other side. Like, let's hear what Tyler Hoover has to say. Hopefully we can find his mic cord.
Man.
Yeah. So.
That's great, man. Yeah, the broadcast crew was just waiting for you. No, it's the truth, man.
The White House. We can't get a hold of Tyler.
That's so funny. Just reminded me and my wife, when we first started dating, we would text it back and forth. She said something wise ass, and I was like, dick. And I'm like, this is either going to really good. I'm like, you're a dick. It's either going to be really good or really bad. She's like, you just call me a dick? I'm like, absolutely. She's like, LMFAO, that's the funniest thing. And anyone's ever called me, I'm like, this chick's cool.
Yeah.
It was either that or it was going to be over. Hysterical. I was on one dating site, man. I had hair model as my career. So some chick answers. She's like, I don't understand. How can you be a hair model? You're bald. I'm like, because there's a really big demand for hair models. She's like, but I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. I was like, delete. There's no way.
Yeah, you asking that question, it means that you're not what I was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Bye. Oh, my God. Unbelievable. That was just something I wanted to ask you. I forgot what it was. But, yeah, when I was, I never came full circle on the other one. So every day I live this life of gratitude now. And, you know, bro, I was just texting with Jason Redman earlier. And I'm like, what a quality man. And he's been, like, introduced into my life in the past 2 years. Like, it blows me away with some of the people that I text with and correspond with and I'm friends with and, you know, numerous Navy SEALs. Not that you have to be a Navy SEAL to be a great guy, but just stand-up quality men that want to help you. And it's mind-boggling, you know, the amount of guys that just want to help. Like, they're here for a noble purpose. They've been through it. They're actual warriors. And they don't have a jealousy thing, man. It just, how can I help, brother? You know, it's so humbling to me.
I think that it's very good for guys of that caliber in the military to focus very hard on people like Eddie Penny, people of that nature, or even DJ Shipley, who have hit their worst points and now are building back and open with it, because that's what builds a humble person. Because it doesn't matter if you're a CEO in a business. It doesn't matter, Navy SEAL. If you're on top of the world and you haven't been checked by life, essentially, you're probably not that good of a person. These guys have hit rock bottom, dude, and they've built themselves back up with sheer resiliency. And now they are the most humble people in the world, and they thank life every day, and they thank anybody they come in contact with. But some of those guys have yet to been kicked in the balls by life, I'd say, and they're not as supportive and nice. And you used the word that was perfect for most of those guys. They all gratitude, you know. So we'll see. But
They appreciate it.
I think that those guys, Eddie Penny and DJ Shipley and guys like that, even Kyle, the Delta Force guy, Kyle. Blue Bearing Solution. No, Kyle Morgan. He talks about.
Oh
it.
yeah. How can I forget, man? Same last name.
He had a traffic stop that went bad for him, and you know he had to get his life together. You know, he was in shambles. When you do something like that, and then you go back to regular life, you have to find that high somewhere, dude. Like that, just not even drugs. You just have to find that.
Yeah,
feeling.
adrenaline. Yeah,
adrenaline until you fucking come back to recalibrate and be like, I don't need to live a life of extreme anymore. I don't need to go to call anymore. I don't need to prepare myself to see humanity's worst side anymore. I don't have to worry about that because it's not my job anymore. But, you know, you almost get used to, like, you know, what do they call it? Front row tickets to the craziest show on earth as humans. Like, it's like,
hell
man.
yeah.
And you
Bro, I don't even know it's a front row seat. I think we're on the fucking stage.
Bro, and you nailed it. Being part of everyone's worst day. So you tell somebody, I went to a dead body call. That doesn't sound like a lot, because it isn't a lot. You've seen 100 of them, at least.
Oh, yeah.
That's not impressive to a first responder. It's really not that impressive as a civilian. And then you go, let me take you for 10 minutes. Let me walk you through this, what happened. And then you tell them, seeing mom show up, seeing the kids show up, seeing the neighbors show up, hearing the weeping, the screaming.
Oh, the
You're there
visceral
for
cries,
4
bro.
hours listening to
Yep.
the cycles of acceptance and not acceptance. That every day will put you in a very, very dark, bad place. Just routine dead person calls. And that's not
Yep.
even the graphic, crazy ones. That is just living in people's misery is, even if there's nothing demonic about it and it's natural and it's life, you have to take care of yourself. Whether or not you do it in real time or you get out and do it at some point, which is a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, is you have to make sure that you know that that's not normal anymore.
Yeah. No, it's not. The stimuli we see is not abnormal. Your body's reactions are normal. But like I referenced that call of the 2-year-old found floating in a pool. So we resuscitated her. We handed her off to the paramedics. They scoop her and her parents up and they throw her in an ambulance. So for the next 3 hours, man, I have to stay at that house with the grandparents who were in charge of watching these kids for a family party. And through no fault of their own, did this baby get back in the pool. But obviously they blame themselves. Brother, you talk about visceral cries.
Yeah.
3 hours, man. I was crawling out of my skin. I've never had that feeling in my life before or since. And I literally started welling up with tears. And I went to go behind the pool to cry. It would have been the best thing I could have done for myself. But I literally was like, you fucking pussy, you can't cry. They can't see you cry. And I like stopped myself instantaneously. Still had to listen to that. And that shit like broke me, man. I buried that. And it was nuts. I mean, the whole story gets a little bit long, but there were so many dynamics. And then she had a hypoxic brain injury. So essentially, after she survived, she was expected to be in a vegetative state. So now I'm feeling guilty for saving the baby. When in fact, if you had to do it 1,000 times, you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So, man, it was such turmoil. Then we get an award. I'm like, I don't want a fucking award for this. And it was the whole paramedic crew, rescue crew, not just me. So I'm like, I can't turn this down, man. It's going to be disrespectful. So now that night, man, I'm sitting here with a smile on my face. Like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, it was horrible. I actually ended up, after my healing journey started, I ended up writing like a 4-page letter to the family. Told them everything, man. It was tear marks all over this thing. But they were so gracious when they got their daughter back, and they just kept inviting me back to the house. And I went in there once, and I started to cry. And it was radio traffic on, man. I just pretended I was getting a call. I was like, guys, I got to roll. I'm like, never again will I go in that house. I can't go in that house.
Yeah.
So, I laid everything out, man. That was like the call that broke me. But I wrote him in a 4-page letter. I'm like, I know that was me supposed to be at your house. Like, your daughter changed my life. That day, watching Eddie Penny, thinking about Dana, changed my life. I'm like, your daughter is going to be saving people's lives through me now. I'm like, I know the universe had me there for a purpose. Like, I was supposed to be there. I realized it, 5 or 7 years later. But, that is powerful to me, too. Like, I was supposed to be there going through it. So, most of the stuff we go through, if you look at it, there's lessons to be had and learned. You may not learn them right away. It may take years. Some you may not know ever. But don't ever look at yourself as a victim. I always tell my people, kind of thank the universe. Every single thing it puts you through. It could be the worst pain in the world. Once you get through and you heal it, you feel it, you heal from it, you're going to be more resilient. You can handle anything, man. We're all here. So we've handled every fucking thing that's come our way in our entire lives.
Yeah. And if there's one thing I can talk about for hours is resiliency and perseverance. That shit to me, I mean, I don't know if it maybe some people aren't capable of it, but to me, I'm like, I don't know if I was trained like that in the military, but I mean, like, quitting is not an option. You don't, like, you just never quit. And you wouldn't quit on yourself either. You don't quit it's very normal to get, I tell myself when bad news hits or we have a bad week or, I'm like, it's okay to feel like shit. It's okay to feel like
it's okay to not be okay. But
I mean, you have to trust in yourself that you're gonna be back in X amount of time. So we need to work on that. Not cover anything, not deal with anything the wrong way, but we need to start working. I mean, we only got 30, 40 more years if we're lucky here. There's not a lot of time to waste. So that's the way I look at it too, man. Before I'm up in his kingdom, I got a lot of work to do down here, and I can't wait forever for shit to be hunky dory. So
exactly. And listen, how many times is it, man? It's never the perfect time. you have to look at the journey and not the destination, man, because that's where the enjoyment lies. If you're looking to the next thing and nothing in between, then you're never going to be satisfied or happy. There's always something else.
Very true. A lot of guys I know, especially me, it's not a weakness. It's I worry about doing that because I'm like, will I slow down? Will I start getting cocky? If I look behind me, I'm like, whoa, I did all that. Let me look at it some more. That's pretty fucking good. I think it's okay at times to just, I'm doing it. All right, keep going. Like move on. Like like if you win, like the only thing I think of is like you won a sports game, right? You have to fucking celebrate. You deserve it.
Yeah.
But 8 in the morning the next day, it's focus, and we're gonna do that again. We're gonna same game plan, same implementation, bigger results. And you need to be able to enjoy your successes, and you need to be able to. My big thing is paying it forward, paying it to the people that are working just as hard as you, and you know that a huge thing about counterculture is you know they have it. No, I'm telling you, people don't. We don't. I don't know. This sounds like a fucking asshole thing to say, but it's just a vote between a bunch of dudes, and we don't just let anybody on. We're like, have they shown that they won't quit? I don't care if it gets fucking 4 years views an episode. Motherfuckers are out there. Sorry for swearing, but if people are out there, doing it. I was like, I can work with that. I can't work with people that are gonna quit 8 episodes in, and so I believe in paying it forward, giving anything that I have to give to other people. Especially if you can save time, dude. If I would expect somebody, dude, Mike, if you knew how to do something and you let me go through it and you're like, well, you needed to learn, I'd be like, what the fuck, Mike? Like, that's a dick move. Tell me what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel. Paying it forward, paying it backwards, and moving and moving with the boys. Everybody moves up. Everybody, you couldn't find a good law enforcement podcast 5 years ago. That's a lie. There was like 1 or 2 of them. Now, depending on what you're looking for in law enforcement, there's a podcast for you to listen to resonate with, and that's important for me.
Yeah, 100%. And as far as helping people, I am just like a cop, man. I would always share all my intelligence. Some of these cats would just keep it to themselves and hide it. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a great cop. I'm always going to develop more. I'm going to give it to them. And half the time, man, this shit's dangerous, man. I want these guys to know that this cat's driving around with a gun, blah, 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 blah. But you find out, you'd be like, motherfucker, you didn't tell me A, B, and C? Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And now, in this arena that I'm in, and it's, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of guys, but you'll see periodically guys who were supposedly doing this for a noble purpose. And, man, the jealousy is mind-boggling. Like I tell any of my friends, send me shit. I'll promote everything you have. I want to see you get better. If you get a speaking gig and you're making 15 G's and, I'm just starting, say I'm making $2,000, I'm not going to be hating on you. I'm just going to be happy for you. You're kicking ass. I'm just not that dude. Yep. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there, as you know.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot. And I'm the same way, dude. Like, I ask for help. That's all I ask for. And I don't think that I look at it like this. If I stay in my lane. I try and stay in my lane. If someone's been doing something for 10 or 15 years, I'm not just going to walk in their lane and go, let me try this. It's like, that being said, if I've only been in a lane for 3 years, I don't think I deserve certain things. A lot of people are like, man, this podcast has this many and they have this many. I'm going to rush. I'm going to cut every corner. I'm going to do every gimmick to get to where they're at. Like, dude, they've been doing this for 15 years, dude. You've been doing it for 15 weeks. Relax.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when I first started out, man, I'm like, oh my God, only, I think last June I was 6 months in, I had like 250 subscribers, and now I'm like closing in 600, so I'm hoping to get like 15 for the year and then start getting exponentially more and more. But I was talking to Taylor, I'm like, hey man, just have to build this foundation, go slow, keep doing what I'm doing. I don't have patience, so that's my biggest thing, but we'll talk periodically, and he's like, look where you are now with A, B, and C. You need to stop, pat yourself on the back, which is what we're talking about just now, and realize all the achievements that you've done along the way, man. Because if we don't, again, it's like, what's the next thing? You're just chasing. You don't appreciate anything you've done, and it's not a way to live. It's not the way I'm living my life anymore. Yeah,
and also one thing is it's a business now. you have to go back and look at, like you would look at anything. You'd look at finances. You would look at anything you would look at. It's important to go and like take 30 minutes one day and just like maybe once a week, once a month, and reflect on everything you've done since the last time you've reflected and been like, what worked? Did this, like, I've noticed I changed this. Did it work? You know, but if you're always moving forward, you're never going to be able to reflect on just business decisions. Like, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. I've been doing this for a month. It's really taken up a lot of time, and it's really been non-impactful or effective, and I'm just going to nix this for energy purposes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, what's your ROI on, you know, whatever you're talking about, time, money, whatever it is. Yeah, I call like after action reports. I used to conduct them at work tactically. You know, what did I do this right? Did I do that right? Always wanted to make changes. I was never arrogant. Always thought I can, you know. I remember I was training a rookie, man. I had 25 on. This guy told me something. I'm like, see, you literally have fucking a cup of coffee on, not even that, half a cup, and you just taught me something. Like, there is no reason why I should not still be learning after 25 years, just as you're a rookie.
Yeah. I told my trainees the same thing. I'm like, dude, you're a grown-ass man. I was like, you are going to inevitably teach me something about life, you know, or a perspective on how to look at this call. I was like, because if you don't, that's an issue with me. I'm an egotistical maniac, and I think I know everything. And so I'd be like, you know, just because you don't know this job, if I left this job and went and worked at H&R Block, I can't just walk into H&R Block like, yeah, I know how to do this job. Like, I'm going to have to sit down and learn from somebody. So.
Yep. It's the truth, man. So that's where the humility comes in. All right, brother. So what's on the horizon for you and the what's the word I'm looking for here? Conglomerate again.
Yeah, I
Any
mean,
big things you could talk about?
Really just mainly getting Antihero a little bit more exposure, and then once we do that, we feel like in the last year, Counterculture Inc. has been around for a year now. And we noticed the trajectories when Antihero is really up, everybody, like the network's up. The network's getting more, we treat it like just because I'm associated with both, I separate that and go, Antihero is the biggest show on the network, right? So the bigger that show makes it, the more the network is able to, essentially it's kind of like one of those, like, if 100 people like Antihero, maybe we get 10 to like the network, and then maybe one person will really attach themselves to one show. And then that it's just doing that over and over and over and over again until shows are like, man, I've got like when I go live, I got like 20 people now, as opposed to, you know, and really trying to get people involved with Antihero. Like when I was talking to you, like on a Wednesday or something, like bringing people in and just being like, you know, hey, you know, have you ever heard of this podcast, or this guy does this podcast, or, you know, bring them in and really let them entertain the crowd and then go, where can they find you? That's how that works. You know, that's how you do that effectively. And so we're really trying to get Antihero a little bit more exposure. So Antihero is working with a media company to kind of make that happen. And we're going to do like a 3-month run and then another 3-month run and see if that was worth it business-wise, and then hopefully everybody, you know, Counterculture is able to provide that exposure and that marketing that, you know, it promises to provide.
That's great. The show you're talking about before, man, working with companies that are going to make you better and their expertise in their field. So, is there a live coming up in West Palm Beach anytime soon? Someone reached out and asked me about that.
Dude, that's what well, it's funny. Other people talk about it more than I. You know when you tell your kids we're going to get ice cream one day, and then every day you're like, you said we're getting ice cream. Like, I know. I said one day. Like, that's what we want to do a show in West Palm, and we're working out where to do it. But yeah, that's where that'll be a great one too. There's so many of us like that live in that 3-hour stretch from each other from Central to Southern Orlando. That'll be, and then there's been so many people hitting us up. Like, I would go to that show. Like, okay, so the crowd will be legit, because we did one show in Miami. We had Jerry Worms there. We had all kinds. We had all the podcasts there, and the turnout wasn't what we thought it would be. We're like, that's fucking weird. So then we kind of hit the brakes, and then we had it happen again in Philly. Philly was a stronghold for us. We had a great show in Philly. 6 months later, we do it again, and the turnout wasn't what we thought it was, and nothing changed. So we really did hit the brakes on the live shows. And so that's why we only hit the brakes to figure out what the fuck are we doing? What happened? What
Yeah.
changed? And how can we do this more effectively? And so West Palm Beach will definitely be one, probably, I'd say in spring, at the latest spring.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, someone reached out to me like, "I'd love to meet you, man. You going to the West Palm Beach live?" I'm like, "I didn't even hear about one. Let me see."
No, it's not.
So I
It's
reached
not
out to
even on the
Justin.
book,
He's like,
dude.
"Justin wasn't even aware of it. If Justin's not aware of it, it's not happening."
No, we know how, between me and Justin, we can run an entire, I had to teach myself, dude. I was like, you know what sucks, too? Is I know we're wrapping it up, but, you know, we would do these live shows, and I would hire this guy named Martin, dude, out of the Northeast. Anytime you did something up in the Northeast, Philly, anything up there in New York, New Jersey, anything, he would come for $500 a pop. He would run the entire live event. Fucking microphones, speakers, recording, put it on YouTube, cameras. He ran everything. If you want him to come anywhere else, it's $2,000. That's to pay for his flights, hotels, baggage. You know, it's a lot. And so we were like, dude, we just can't afford $2,000 for somebody to come and do. He does phenomenal work, but we had to learn. And I had to call him. I was like, dude, to be honest with you, man, I need to learn to do this myself. And he goes, no problema, bro. And he fucking told me what to buy, how to do it, and taught me everything. So now we're self-sufficient with a live show. We can set up the tables. We can set up the mics, the PA speakers, fucking run it through YouTube. So it's live on YouTube and the cameras. It's, you know, it's not easy, but it's easy enough to learn. And
Yeah.
so now we're able, that was one of the things we learned. We had to buy all the equipment. So we bought it all for the long end of it for Counterculture to not have to pay for somebody to do it. So that's essentially the biggest decision that we chose to do to see if we can save money. And now we're going to start those shows back up and maybe keeping them a little bit more regional, like Vegas was in talks.
Yeah?
Because somebody's like, I have a hookup with a hotel, man. We can get like super discounted rooms for the weekend, and you can have the hall. It could be a big meetup. And we're like, man, that sounds cool, but Vegas is so far away. We're like, you know.
Yeah, it's a trip, man.
Yeah. So that's what we're working on now, stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to see what's going to happen in the future. Hopefully, I will be a part of. Love to be a part of a few of those projects.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully, they're live in West Palm Beach.
Well, we tell everybody this is where we're going on this date. We just need to know about 30 days out before the date we can make the flyer. So if a lot of people are typically able to make it, you know, if they have enough notice.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot what happened in Miami. I was originally going down there and something happened. Whatever. But West Palm is like half hour from the house, so that's like perfect for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. We'll do it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully I'm going to hop on a couple of lives with you guys as well, just remotely.
Yep.
Talk to shit. Love it. All right. Tyler, it's been unbelievable speaking to you. Just tell everyone social medias, all the bios, all the links will be in the bio as well, how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram, Sucker Free Sunday. You'll never see a blue check mark on mine because just like me and you talked, I'm a regular ass human and I don't need any business conducted through my Instagram. So I don't care if I have 1 million followers. I'll never have a blue check mark. But you can also find us at the Antihero Broadcast, Counterculture Inc. threads, Counterculture Inc. Instagrams for all of them, and then the YouTube is the Antihero Broadcast on YouTube, and then Counterculture Inc. The media company also has its own YouTube. So shoot me a DM through any of those, and we'll get in touch.
Beautiful. All right, guys. I hope you like what you saw. If you do, hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Tyler, thanks again, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma